today's economy, there are two types of people. There's those who pay for space and those who own it. And the difference between the two isn't just comfort, it's power. See, because ownership is not just about having keys to a building, it's about controlling value, controlling income, and controlling time. Commercial real estate has quietly remained one of the strongest engines of wealth generation in modern history. Yet most people, they never get to access it or learn how it actually works. Today's guest is Jim Austin, a man that didn't wait for an opportunity. He acquired it. Through commercial real estate, he's built a portfolio designed not just for income, but for long-term generational wealth. We're talking about the mindset of acquisition over consumption, the strategy behind turning buildings into businesses, and how wealth is often not created by working harder, but by owning smarter. Welcome, Jim Austin, to the Next 250. Today's guest is Jim Austin, a respected commercial real estate entrepreneur, investor, and business leader who has built his success on one of the world's most proven wealth building strategies, property ownership. Through decades of experience acquiring, developing, and managing commercial real estate, Jim has transformed buildings into businesses, equity into opportunity, and investments into a lasting legacy. Rather than chasing quick returns, Jim has focused on creating sustainable wealth through strategic acquisitions, disciplined investing, and long-term ownership. His approach demonstrates that true financial freedom isn't simply about earning a larger paycheck. It's about controlling, appreciating assets that generate income while increasing value over time. See, on the Next 250, we explore people and the industries that will shape the next generation of wealth creation. And Jim Austin represents one of the foundational pillars of that conversation. Commercial real estate has created more millionaires than perhaps any other asset class. And Jim has mastered the principles of identifying opportunity and building generational wealth through ownership. In this episode, Jim shares the mindset behind becoming a commercial real estate tycoon and the lessons he's learned from building a successful portfolio. And why ownership, not just employment, is the key to long-term financial independence. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a first-time investor, or someone looking to understand how real estate can become a vehicle for lasting prosperity, Jim's insight offers a practical roadmap for turning property into purpose and wealth into legacy. Please join me in welcoming to the Next 250, Jim Austin. I've known you for a few years now, I know I brought this up to you before. I'm curious about what it is that you actually, like, what do you do? I know you said commercial real estate, but can you tell me, like, who is Jim Austin? What do you do?
Well, a lot of people ask that questions, and I probably honestly have to say that because my giving nature and my ability to do real estate is what my love is. I just love it to death. I enjoy it. I'm up 5 o'clock every morning figuring out what I'm going to do in that day. But my wife and I are founders of the National Multicultural Western Heritage Museum, website cowboysofcolor.org. So that's my passion. I love educating our kids about the fact that 1/4 of the kids were African American, Hispanic, and Native American. So there you go. I grew up and I didn't know that. And most people don't. But I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have a ticket brokerage company where I buy and sell tickets. I own 16 licensed seats to the Dallas Cowboys, 8 seats to the Dickies Arena. And I just recently, well, not recently, 25 years ago, I started Jim Austin Online. I was looking for a way to cross market at that point my 12 companies. And I came up with Jim Austin Online, and they cross market newsletter, videos, and all that. But then I just recently purchased the Elks Lodge, which is about 75 years in the market. and we've opened it up as Stillwater Lounge where people can come out, get their good music and entertainment and have fun.
Okay. So how'd you even get into commercial real estate? Like did you grow up around other like realtors or brokers or anything like that?
No, what happened is when I graduated from the Black Mecca, Howard University, and when I was at Howard, I was president of the student body. Yeah, I've always been a people person, and also I was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, so I was a big man on campus, if you can say it short. And I was just enjoying myself, and I went on 20 interviews for a job because I was graduating May of 1976. Well, American Express saw something in me. They offered me a position to go into their management training program. After a year traveling all over the world and learning about American Express, I was in New Orleans, got the call, said, Jim, we're sending you to Fort Worth, Texas. March 1 of 1977, I pull up in town. Didn't know anybody but two of my classmates.
Mhm.
But immediately in taking that position, I started buying real estate and I decided to get my real estate license. So I got my license and I was buying lots on the courthouse steps. I bought 8 of them for $400, $50 a piece. And a gentleman says, you know, those lots you're buying, some of them are under a creek. And I said, no, he wants. So at that point, I did not want to leave Fort Worth. I wanted to stay here because in order to improve myself, I would have had to go back to New York. So I resigned and he said, let me teach you commercial real estate. And I went under his tutelage for 2 years and he taught me, he was 25 years in the business and he taught me how to do commercial real estate. And by that time, I had massed about 17 rental properties, lots of lots. I had started building my fortune in real estate.
When did you realize that property ownership was like just like powerful, like it's more than income alone?
Well, I'm going to make a statement. Most billionaires and millionaires got their riches through real estate. I'd say 90% of their wealth is in real estate. And I knew that from getting my degree in marketing at Howard University, that real estate drives this economy. And you look at the people that are very wealthy, they go back and they invest in real estate. You look at Sam's Club. They go in, they buy a big old tract of land for 50 acres. Well, they put the Sam store in it, but all the outside land becomes valuable. So maybe they paid $2 a square foot. By the end of the day, they're selling that land at $20 a square foot. So it's a system of leverage. But yeah, so that hit me when I got to Texas. I said, look, Texas is one of the biggest states in the union, and I'm right here in Fort Worth, Texas. And, I never relocated to Dallas, but real estate's always been something that made me click.
And you mentioned something, you mentioned leverage. What's the role of leverage when it comes to like when you acquire a property?
Well, back in the day, is that if you had, say, $1,000, you could buy a piece of property that was worth $10,000. Or if you had $10,000, you could buy a property worth 100,000. So it's the ability to leverage your cash towards a property that had value that was appreciating. And a lot of people don't understand appreciation. And appreciation is that property is going to grow in value. If you purchase it this year, 5, 10 years later, it's going to appreciate. And a lot of times the value will double from what you purchase it for if you buy it right. And that's where you lean on Jim Austin, commercial real estate, 45 years in the business. And I have a knack for knowing value. And I work hard for my clients. And it's just something good that I recommend people to do if they're getting ready to think about investing in real estate.
Real estate professionals can build an online team to manage leads, create property marketing, follow up with clients, and grow their personal brand so they can focus more on closing deals. That's why we have partnered with Remoting.work.
Nothing is moving. We hire, we train, we start again. This is exhausting.
Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop. We used to have the same hiring problems. Nothing moves. It's difficult to find someone reliable.
So what changed?
I posted my IT roles on remoting.work. When customers run into issues with the website, my employees respond right away. I have someone watching for security threats and catching them before they become disasters. They even handled onboarding for me.
What did that cost you?
Full-time employees start at $6 an hour.
You know, Jim, already to me, like home ownership is one of those things where, even I remember buying my first home, I didn't have anybody to go to. Okay, I didn't quite understand like the steps that were involved. So just to even hear, okay, commercial property, any insight on that? Like, should I buy a home first, then buy a building, or why is that like a strategic move to maybe go into commercial realty, or do you have to have like know like the steps and maybe start off as a homeowner first?
Start out as a homeowner. That's the first thing you want to do. Stop renting. Buy yourself a house with a mortgage that you're paying that mortgage that eventually you will pay that home off and you will not have any more payment other than taxes and insurance. So I always tell people buy a home first, get that property first, and then start saving because then you can find yourself a agent or a broker that will help you secure maybe a lot, a commercial lot, or a commercial piece of property because it becomes about leverage. So I always encourage people buy a home first
Okay.
because that's your home, that's your homestead. And in the state of Texas, and particularly here in Fort Worth, Tarrant County, they give you a real big reduction in taxes on your homestead. So the house is valued maybe at 200,000, but they give you a big reduction in your taxes if you homestead it.
I remember in my early 20s, I had an opportunity. I connected with this owner. He owned a warehouse, and inside the warehouse, it was literally he had converted it into a home. Like it had like 3 kitchens, six bathrooms, like 11 rooms, a sauna, movie theater, 3-car garage, and a 3-bedroom apartment. Like it was huge, and we had, he liked me. I liked him. He liked what I was doing in media. And he was like, you should buy it. And I was like, buy a warehouse? Like, sir, I don't know what to do or what to think of. And again, it had a 3-bedroom apartment in there, like not thinking that, hey, it's already generating income. I was just so hung up on the price. I was like, $100,000. He was literally about to retire, just wanted to get rid of it. It was a complete deal. And I walked away from it. Have you ever walked away from a deal? Anything that maybe or you walked away because money maybe is not all, that it's about?
Well, that is true. I mean, sometimes the price overwhelms you, but you go back and think about leverage. This guy was showing you respect and the fact that he liked how you did your business and he gave you an opportunity to buy this property. So that's a lost leader. I mean, you learned a lesson that you probably should have went ahead and got that piece of property. A story about me when I got into commercial real estate, I was getting great deals because I always had an eye for value. So I'm taking it to the same two investors. And it hit me. I said, wait a minute, I got some money. So what I did is I stopped doing that and I put together limited partnerships. I've done about 25 of them. I would get either one or five of my friends, and we would put in the equal amount of money, and we would have an equal partnership in that property. I was the broker. I was the agent broker in the project, in the buying of it. I was the broker at the end of selling it. I was also the partner who managed it. But I owned an individual the same amount of each one. So out of these 25 limited partnerships, I mean, I've got 25 stories of you on how well they did. The great thing about those 25 partnerships, the worst thing we did, everybody got their money back on the deal. And my wife was not very critical, but she said, anybody that does business with you, Jim, they always at least get their money back. But that was part of my standard. that if you gave me money to invest in some property, I'm gonna make sure that it's success because I have the equal amount of money that you have invested. But all the time, I did not bring in partners. I have some deals that were so good that, like when I brought Roller World Northeast up in Haltom City, it was a roller skating rink. Everybody roller skates as a kid, more story. So I purchased it, 2 acres of land, the largest skating floor in the Metroplex. I purchased it for $900,000 and it had 100 self-storage units. The problem was it was two businesses, self-storage and roller skating. So I managed both of them. So probably 12 years later, I sold that property to my manager for $1.3 million. So I got almost a 50% return on my investment. Plus, I got the money for the income that came from the self storage and the roller skating rink. So it's about knowing and being able to leverage value. When the banker looks at your property, they want to know that that property is worth X and you want to put down X. So it's all about leverage and good credit. They always talk to you about when you're young, protect your credit. Pay your bills and protect your bill. Go buy a car, pay the note. Go rent an apartment, pay the rent. Vice versa. So, but always protect your credit.
So, Jim, if you had to do it all over again, start at ground zero, would you change anything?
Heck yeah. you know, if I had to redo it, my wife, my best friend, they said, Jim, why don't you just do commercial real estate?
Hmm.
And I was so diverse at one point, I had 10, 12 different businesses. And it's hard to put as much time in these businesses. I would probably have done maybe 2, 3, no more than 4 other businesses at the same time that I was doing this. I would more like focus on the main thing because that's the thing that makes money. But, I started a museum because I just found out a fourth of the Cowboys were people of color. That's something that I did. And, my wife is the executive director. But yeah, if I had to do it all over again, I would focus more because I'm all right, but I would be a very wealthy commercial real estate broker if I had focused. Like Sam McCall. Sam McCall was my broker that taught me the business, and he was focused. He wasn't doing nothing but commercial real estate, and I didn't pick that up from him, but he did show me how to negotiate.
Nice.
There was a property he wanted to buy for a client. We'd go into that client's house. We'd be in there for 2 hours, just talking about nothing but life. We wouldn't even talk about the property. Then we'd walk out, and he would get the flavor or the relationship with the client that had that property we wanted to buy. Because it's all about relationships. You like that guy that tried to sell you that building. It's about relationship. He liked you. Jim's a nice guy. I speak to everybody. My wife says, you speak to everybody from, because I do. I just like people. As I'm walking down the walk, good morning.
Mhm.
Huh? But
Yeah.
that's just my flavor. It's just being nice
Mhm.
and never burn down a bridge because you never know when you're going to have to go back across that big bridge at some point in your life.
Yeah. I was just gonna ask you what's one thing you would leave, someone that's wanting to go into this industry or just overall in just business, what you would tell them, just never burn a bridge?
Right. Never burn a bridge. Always treat someone like you want to be treated because that's so important, in life because you might have to go back across that bridge and you can't cross it because you done burnt your relationship or that opportunity to do that for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that insight, Jim Austin, and welcome to the next 250. That's for sure.
Well, you and I met and we're having a good time. We're talking about some big, big things. And I always just look for opportunity and your spirit and how you live. You live by Christ and, as being a good person. And I think we're going to do some good as we move forward. And I thank you for this opportunity to be on your show.